The following program has been rated GE by the Kenya Film Classification Board. It is therefore suitable for general family viewing.
Hello viewer, welcome to Chungu cha Jamii. I'm your host Eunice Mugo. Today on the show we're talking about parenting in the non-traditional family structures. Are you a modern parent? What are the challenges, struggles, of the benefits that you see of parenting the children in this era? Join our conversation today across all our social media platforms. That's GBS TV Africa. Our SMS line is 21144. On the show, I'm not alone. I have guests with me who are going to help us to understand better in parenting in these non-traditional family structures. I will allow them to introduce themselves. Welcome, guests. Starting with you.
Thank you very much, Eunice. My name is James Kituzi. I am a life coach. I'm also a parenting expert, and also I wear many hats, but today in the show I wear the hat of a parental and also relationship expert.
Thank you on the show, Mr. James.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eunice. My name is Benjamin Mudoka. I'm a specialist in mind education. I talk about the world of the heart, and also I'm a counselor.
Welcome on the show, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So today's topic, as we are talking about parenting in the non-traditional family structures. As we know, we're in the new era. We call it the 21st century, where our children are so digitalized and so informed more than the way our parents and grandparents were informed before. Maybe to start with, help us to understand what are the differences between the traditional family structures where we grew up and these non-traditional family structures that you are bringing our children in. Starting with you, Mr. James.
Well, as you've rightly put it, the family setup is actually changing and evolving. And right now we are talking about the modern family. We are talking about parents who have been millennials, now raising a generation that is commonly referred to as Gen Z. Traditionally, the family setup was very simple in its nature. We had a father, a mother or mothers in a polygamous setup, and we had children. And of course, that family was also surrounded by the larger extended family. So you had grandparents there, you had uncles and aunties, and everybody in that family was working together to ensure that the setup or the family is thriving, the family is growing, the children are well raised. It was everybody's responsibility to take care of everybody else. So it's not just the parents, for example, who would take care of the discipline of the children or the basic needs of the children. You'd find the grandparents are there to offer advice and guidance. The aunties, the uncles are there to help the boys and the girls to grow into manhood and womanhood. So basically, it was a very complex setup where everybody was involved in taking care of one another. When you look at the modern family is a bit disintegrated. We are looking at people who are very individualistic in the sense that now the family fabric is kind of broken, so to speak. So you find people have grown, they come into cities to look for work, and they start families in cities where you find now the nuclear family is just father, mother, and children. And sometimes the extended family is not very much involved. So the family is more individualistic in nature. Kids grow up knowing that this is dad, this is mom. And in some setups, due to various circumstances, which I hope throughout the show we shall look at, you find that even the family itself is not just the basic father, mother, and children. You'll find we have single parent families where we have a single father, we have single mothers, we have children who are raised by extended family members due to one reason or another. We have children who are brought up in children's homes, which were things that wouldn't exist in the past, because in the past children belonged to the society and everybody took care of the children. Now we have kids who are growing up without the basic family setup of father, mother, child, children, but now they're growing up, let's say, in orphanages, where they have a daddy and a mommy who are not their biological parents, and they have brothers and sisters whom they're not even related by blood. And so there's a very huge difference between the way children are growing up now, the way families are relating now, and how they used to be back in the day. So there's a very huge difference in parenting styles. There's a huge difference in terms of relationships between couples, father and mother. Now we are talking about other things that are cropping up due to westernization, like homosexuality, where you find that we have gay marriages, and these gay people want to have children also. So you find that it's a very complex society that we are living in right now, and parenting in this day and age is actually a very uphill task. It requires the input of both father, mother, to ensure that everybody is actually, and the children are well taken care of.
Thank you so much for that insight. Coming to you, Mr. Benjamin, and picking from what Mr. James has said, how we're bringing up these children, the millennials bringing up the Gen Zs are so-called. From the world of the heart, what is the difference now that you are saying bringing up children in this all family, different families, like he has mentioned about the single parents, the single mothers, the single fathers, children being adopted, children being brought up in children's home, you're having same-sex marriages, lesbians and gays wanting to adopt children. How are they able to bring up these children that they have adopted to be better people in the society and not more like them? Because by the end of the day, we say an apple doesn't fall far from the tree. In as much as I have adopted this child, he or she may end up taking my character. Simply, I'm the one she sees me around.
For me, I want to talk on the basis of the Bible.
Okay.
And when I think about myself when I was growing up, at that time, I didn't belong to my parents, only my parents. But I remember that time, all the kids belonged to the society.
Sure.
True.
And everyone would correct anyone. I remember that time, you even could not imagine, you met with a person and then they found you doing mistakes and they punished you, and then from there, this is not the end of everything, they will take you to the parents. So to some extent, you would not even want to hear people say that I want to take you to the parents, because it was more worse if they do that. But when I look at the setup of today, even in the estate that people stay, not even the estate, you're living in one, you're living in one place, and then even the neighbor, you cannot even tell who your neighbor is, which means people have gotten into the world of isolation in their mind in a good way, thinking that I have my life to live, they have their life to live, so everybody has to live their own life. And because of that, mostly when I see most of the people, they know one another because of the kids, not in a good way, because maybe my child and my neighbor's child, they had a conflict, so because the conflict has come to some extent, one of the parents went, and of course when you go to the side of your child. So because of that, it will now, it's like it will cause some alarm to the other side, so the parent will come. So you meet in a bad way. And then number two, people are living with their kids not because they really want to make them to be happy. It is simply because they don't have time for their kids. And then if my child wants to go to town, I'll give them money to avoid, because I don't want to have that, that a close talk with my kids. Most of the people, they don't have that session of talking to their kids. And because of that, let's say, for example, I have kept my kids very well. But they go to the society, they go to school, they go to church, whatever kind of people they will meet there are the kids who have been brought up, number one, by parents who don't care about the godly part of their life. Even they don't have any spiritual well-being in them. And now my child who has grown up, and I have been teaching them about the spiritual world. Then they meet with another child who does not know anything about the spiritual world. They know my father comes home, they drink together, they eat together, they watch movies together. I'm sorry to say, but even sometimes they watch porno movies together because they don't care. They don't have any setup of, that fear of the Lord in them. And because of that, many people are complaining, and then they're talking about this issue and that issue. That's why kids are like this, that's why kids are like this. But me, when I look at it from the Bible, the biblical side of it, even the time of Lot, I don't think whether the sodomy that was in Sodom and Gomorrah, this level that we are talking about LGBTQ, has reached that point. Because these guys, when you look at the guys who are living with Lot in Sodom and Gomorrah, when the two angels went to the house of Lot, they reached a point that they could notice a stranger who has come. Not a stranger, a woman who came there, but they're talking about a man who came and is a stranger. Which means the sodomy part of it was too high. The level was too high. But now, when we talk about the life that we are living, people are talking about new things. They are worried about the things that are happening. But when I look at the Bible, and one person who was the most wise person, and there will never be like him, that is Solomon, he talked about something, and then he said, there is nothing new under the sun. Mm-hmm. We are talking about sodomy. Sodomy was there. Mm-hmm. When we talk about all these things that are happening, they're not happening because of any other thing. People left God. And when they left God, they went into a certain world where they have now to follow themselves. And then when they follow themselves, they do not know the world of the heart. That's why they are just living. They follow what comes. If my friend comes with a new way of living, I want to follow that because I think it's a good way. Mm-hmm. And I think that is what is affecting our kids nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Coming to you, Mr. James,
Yes.
Picking up from where Mr. Benjamin was saying about as parents getting to know the other child's parents in a very different approach, simply because I don't want you to beat my child. Currently, we're even having schools that lately we've been seeing teachers punishing children to extreme levels, and the punishment were banned from school, and also beating children were banned from school. So given that also a teacher cannot beat my child, you as a neighbor, you cannot beat my child, where are we headed to? How are you going to bring up a child? Even if we say we are the millennials, we are the Gen Zs, is it the right way to bring our children in this society where we say we are minding our own businesses? If my child is of bad character, is my child, is not our child.
And that's actually a very dangerous way to look at it. We are living in a society that is broken, disintegrated, a society that is very individualistic and selfish. People are very egocentric. They only mind their own and think of their own. And we forget one thing, that by nature, as human beings, we are not meant to live alone. We are social in nature. If you go back to the history of mankind and back to the Bible in Genesis, we are told that when man was created, God looked and saw that it was not good for him to be alone. And that is why he created a companion in his likeness, a fellow human being. Because Adam had all the animals to relate with. He had all the plants, the crops, and everything else. But still, that was not sufficient to make him complete until he had a person whom he could relate to in his likeness. So that goes ahead to show that by nature, we are meant to relate. We are meant to coexist with one another as human beings. So when we try to break that bond, such that every man for himself, as they say, every man for himself and God for us all, we become a very dangerous society, because that's when we stop caring. And when we stop caring, we stop sharing. When we stop sharing, then the society is disintegrated, it's broken, and we cannot actually mend it. It's a very dangerous society. No wonder we have all these ills that we are seeing in society. Now we have children who have no respect for authority, because like I started by saying, traditionally the family was communal, and people lived in communities. So we had clanism, and the clan took care of their own and related with other clans. And even in the extended family, everybody was involved in disciplining children, in taking care of their needs, both physical, psychological, and spiritual. But now when we have individualistic people, where now everybody is raising their own child their own way, and everybody is trying to be different, even different from the way they were raised. I've seen parents and had parents who say, I don't want to bring up my children the way I was brought up.
Sure.
But what we forget is there are some good things and some values that we can learn from the way our parents brought us up. Sure. So we can pick from that and carry that on. And whatever we feel is abusive, is outdated, then we can do away with that. For example, when we talk about the forms of punishment, and now we are saying even under the law that corporal punishment is banned even from schools. But as a parent, you need to ask yourself, yes, legally, it's wrong for me to do that. But then as a parent, what forms, what creative ways can you come up with to discipline your own child? Because we say charity begins at home. Sure. If the child is not disciplined from home, then we burden schools, we burden institutions, we burden the police with an indisciplined society that cannot be managed. So it's better if parents themselves took charge of the discipline of their own children. Biblically, we know that it's not wrong to discipline your child. Actually, it's godly to bring them up in the way that they should move and correct them when they are wrong. You can correct them in love. What we are against, even what corporal punishment is against, is those extreme measures that people take to the extent that you actually harm the child. Then that is not love. But if you're correcting your own child in love, and they understand that this is wrong and this is right, when they come into the larger society, like joining school, they go to college, they go to university, they join the workforce, they become very disciplined individuals who can be managed, who can relate well with others, who can handle conflicts, who are able to be to express themselves. Number two, they develop emotional intelligence so that they can express their emotions in an amicable manner. They can also relate with others and respect the emotions and feelings of others. But now when we don't discipline them, when they are young especially, then we have a society that is rotten and is very dangerous. Yes.
Thank you so much. Coming to you, Mr. Benjamin, from what Mr. James have said about living in a very dangerous society where we say every man for himself, God for us all. Here we see parents that, like we've mentioned before, I don't want you to discipline my child. Would you say it's because of, having said that, when we say that we don't want to bring our children the way we were brought up, is it because we were traumatized growing up? Because of maybe the punishment, because of the fear installed in us? Because you mentioned you growing up, if your neighbor found you doing wrong, he or she will punish you and take you to your parents. You didn't want that. Would you say that is the trauma that the current 21st century parent, we don't want our children to go through the same? That is why I say, you don't beat my child. If my child has issues, I will find out by myself. I will discipline him or her by myself. I don't need your help in that.
As we talk about punishment, let's not talk about it as punishment, but let's talk about it as correction. Because the Bible also says, for the people that God loves, he corrects. Many people, when they live their lives, for me, I would say I'm who I am because of how I was brought up. I'm very sure that you will say you are who you are because of how your parents brought you up.
Sure.
Nowadays, when I look at the many people, it's not because they have a problem. It is simply because they do not know where they are. And there is something that is leading them. There is the founder of GBS TV, and he's a pastor, a reverend. He talks about one thing, that we have, if you have a very precious thing and you do not know how to use it, then it's useless. Our hearts are so special, they were created so special, but one of the biggest problems is that we do not even know the world of our hearts. That's why when things come up from our hearts, we think it's a new thing. It's not new, it's just within you. You have just created a space for it to come out. So when we talk about correction, for me, I would say correction, if, for example, if Eunice, you were brought up and you were never corrected, then when you see other people correcting their kids, you start complaining, isn't it?
Sure.
But if you were corrected, for you also, you do not, in fact, the Bible says, amnyimaye mtoto kiboko amnyima kitu kizuri. Which means, then, even for God, who is our creator, he knows that we make mistakes and we need to be corrected. That's why he says, you don't correct them because you hate them, you correct them because you love them. It is love, it's not hatred. But many people, because they don't know about that, they left the word of God. That's why to them, it's hatred. To them, you hear a parent come to you and then he's telling, you know, as I'm a parent, I have 3 kids. And I know my friend also is a parent. You're also a parent. You know, you go to school, and that one time I went to school where my daughter was schooling. And then the principal was telling me like this, there is one parent who went there and was causing drama. Do you know why? Because the child was corrected. You know, you're shouting to the teacher and your child is there. So what do you think, what is the character that you're developing in the heart of that child? You're developing a certain character that she needs not to be corrected by anyone. So when she grows up and then she has her own family, what do you think she will do? Definitely. Because one thing that I know, our kids, they borrow everything from us, what we do. That is what they grow up with. I'm sorry to go just off the topic. We are talking about kids, but now I want to talk about the family. You know, the parents, your wife will live with you according to the way, you know, there are kids who grow up and then they hate men. Why? Simply because they saw their father mistreating their mother.
Sure.
There are boys who will hate women because they saw their mother misbehaving or mistreating the father. So from the background, I'll talk about the background, because even when we are talking about our kids, we are talking about where are they coming from. And as we talk about, let's now talk about sodomy, or the LGBTQ. And now a man is marrying a man, and then you want to adopt a child. Then what do you expect your child to be thinking about? She's there. The mother is a man. The father is a man. That kind of, actually, you are causing trauma. Itself, it's causing that trauma to the child. And then they're thinking, because when they go to school, do you think they will only meet people who are brought up by a man and a man? Or a woman and a woman because they are lesbians?
Allow me to interact and also ask this, but I would want you to give me an answer after the break. Now that you've mentioned the LGBTQ in this form of same-sex bringing up a child, research and statistics shows that the children brought up with the same-sex parents are more diversified in terms of being open-minded, simply because the parents tell them, we are different, we are not like them. That's why you have also to accept and embrace different people with their shortcomings, for lack of better words. So if I am a woman and a woman bringing up a child, I'll tell them, for us, this is our normality. For them, their normality is father, mother, a male and a woman. Their other normalities is a father, a man and a man. So the child, from the statistics, they say the child is open-minded, knowing how to relate and embracing all these people in the society. I'd want to take your view on the same from you, Mr. James and Benjamin, when you come back after the break. Viewer, I hope you're learning as much as I am. Send in your question, your comments across all our social media networks. That's GBS TV Africa. Our SMS line is 21144. We'll be back shortly.